A stereotype is a categorizing of information in the hope of predicting experiences. The brain cannot start from scratch at every new situation. It must build on what it has seen before. For that reason, stereotypes are not intrinsically malevolent. They provide shortcuts in our never-ending attempt to make sense of complicated surroundings. But because a stereotype provides us with specific expectations about members of a group, it can also unfavorably influence both our perceptions and our behavior. Research on stereotypes shows not only that we react differently when we have a stereotype of a certain group of people, but also that stereotyped people themselves react differently when they are aware of the label that they are forced to wear. In psychological terms, we can say that they are primed with this label. One stereotype of Asian Americans, for instance, is that they are especially gifted in mathematics and science. A common stereotype of females is that they are weak in mathematics. This means that Asian American women could be influenced by both notions. In fact, they are. In a remarkable experiment, Margaret Shih, Todd Petinsky, and Nalini Ambadi asked Asian American women to take an objective math exam. But first, they divided the women into two groups. The women in one group were asked questions related to their gender. For example, they were asked about their opinions and preferences regarding co-ed dorms, thereby priming their thoughts for gender-related issues. The women in the second group were asked questions related to their race. These questions referred to the languages they knew, the languages they spoke at home, and their family's history in the United States, thereby priming the women's thoughts for race-related issues. The performance of the two groups differed in a way that matched the stereotypes of both women and Asian Americans. Those who had been reminded that they were women performed worse than those who had been reminded that they were Asian American. These results show that even our own behavior can be influenced by our stereotypes, and that activation of stereotypes can depend on our current state of mind and how we view ourselves at the moment. Perhaps even more astoundingly, stereotypes can also affect the behavior of people who are not even part of a stereotype group. In one notable study, John Bargh, Mark Chen, and Laura Burrows had participants complete a scrambled sentence task, rearranging the order of words to form sentences. For some of the participants, the task was based on words such as aggressive, rude, annoying, and intrude. For others, the task was based on words such as honor, considerate, polite, and sensitive. The goal of these two lists was to prime the participants to think about politeness or rudeness as a result of constructing sentences from these words. This is a very common technique in social psychology, and it works amazingly well. After the participants completed the scrambled sentence task, they went to another laboratory to participate in what was purportedly a second task. When they arrived at the second laboratory, they found the experimenter apparently in the midst of trying to explain the task to an uncomprehending participant who was just not getting it. This supposed participant was in fact not a real participant, but a confederate working for the experimenter. How long do you think it took the real participants to interrupt the conversation and ask what they should do next? The amount of waiting depended on what type of words had been involved in the scrambled sentence task. Those who had worked with the set of polite words patiently waited for about 9.3 minutes before they interrupted, whereas those who had worked with the set of rude words waited only 5.5 minutes before interrupting. A second experiment tested the same general idea by priming the concept of the elderly, using words such as Florida, bingo, and ancient. After the participants in this experiment completed the scrambled sentence task, they left the room thinking that they had finished the experiment. But in fact, the crux of the study was just beginning. What truly interested the researchers was how long it would take the participants to walk down the hallway as they left the building. Sure enough, the participants in the experimental group were affected by the elderly words. Their walking speed was considerably slower than that of the control group who had not been primed. And remember, the primed participants were not themselves elderly people being reminded of their frailty. They were undergraduate students at NYU. These experiments show us that it's very important to choose the words carefully that we use to relate to ourselves, and also when it comes to stereotyping other people. Things don't always look the way they seem.